When Andrew Frates joined us back in 2016 to talk about the famous Ice Bucket Challenge that his brother Pete inspired, you remember, when everyone from Kim Kardashian to Victoria Beckham to Governor Charlie Baker poured ice water over their heads to raise money to research ALS, he said he hoped it would make a difference.
We're so excited and so grateful for everyone who dumped and donated money to hopefully, fund breakthroughs and lead us somewhere down to a cure.
Pete Frates died in 2019 following a years-long battle with ALS, but he and his family's promotion of the Ice Bucket Challenge helped raise more than $200 million, much of it going toward research on the terminal neurological condition. And now the FDA has approved a new treatment for ALS based on a trial the challenge funded, exactly as Pete's mother Nancy hoped for when she joined us in 2015.
What the Ice Bucket Challenge has done is we're able to go in now to these labs and say to these researchers, stay at the bench, keep doing the work that you educated yourself to do. The families are going to raise the money.
And did they ever? Nancy Frates joins me now, along with Dr. Sabrina Paganoni, co-director of the MGH Neurological Clinical Research Institute and the principal investigator in the trial that led to the approval of the new drug called Relivrio. Doctor, it's good to meet you, and Nancy, as always, it's great to see you.
Thank you.
Do you remember saying words like that about 10,000 times?
Sure, I lived them.
I know you. And so how did you find out about the approval of the drug?
I got a text. I had actually just left an Ice Bucket Challenge at Endicott College, which they do annually, and 15 minutes after getting in my car, I got the text that it was approved.
Can you describe the feeling in your body and your head when you got the text?
It was joy. It was hope. It was mixed emotions, too. I would have done anything to have gotten that text while Pete was still with us.
You know, just so people are clear, while the two guys whose company developed this are now the heads of the company, when they were funded by the money you and your family helped raise, they were undergraduate students at Brown. Is that not correct?
That is absolutely correct.
And did you know them? Had you ever met them at the time when the money was going to them, or no?
Well, they did reach out to us.
They did?
In 2015.
When they were in college?
When they got the grant. So the ALS Association granted them $2.2 million, which was the catalyst for them to be able to bring it to what we have today.
And you didn't go home and say, two college kids, come on, really?
I said two Brown College kids.
Oh, excuse me.
This is going to happen.
Thank you. So, doctor, explain exactly what the drug will do for ALS patients.
Absolutely. This is such an exciting time for people with ALS. The drug can help prolong functional independence, meaning that people will be able to retain functions for longer. Things that we do every day that we take for granted, like walking or speaking. Now, the drug is not a cure. I want to be very clear. The drug cannot completely stop the disease, and it cannot reverse the disease. However, it's a fantastic step forward. And
so just so I'm clear, it slows the decline and will extend the life of someone suffering from ALS, correct?
That's correct.
Is this appropriate for all ALS patients?
Absolutely. The drug was approved for everyone with ALS. Obviously, it would be important to start it, as early as possible and give access to as many people as possible, but it's approved for everyone. And so we're starting to prescribe it, and this is great news, really a change.
As I mentioned in the introduction, Doctor, you were the leader of the trial, and originally the FDA Advisory Committee voted no. They met again, they voted yes. And I've read a couple of things. One, because their confidence level grew. I guess there were additional presentations, you'll tell me. And also, there was a mountain of voices from families where there was unmet need. What do you think drove that reversal in terms of the FDA Advisory Committee?
Well, in my opinion, it's the data. The data has always been very strong. We continue to do additional analyses, and those are the ones that were presented more recently at the second advisory committee meeting. Absolutely, there has been a lot of support from the entire ALS community, both ALS patients, families, but also ALS physicians, researchers will continue to look at the data and help us really do, again, more investigations, more analysis of the data to really clarify the effects of the drug. So I think the data is what really counts.
Nancy, you have strong feelings about the I don't know if it's criticism. Well, criticism. It's a small trial, and so we really shouldn't move ahead with this. What do you say to those people?
I say that if it was your family member and there was potential or hope that they could delay going on a ventilator, losing their voice, or even extending life 10 months, you're going to tell me no. And as Dr. Paganoni said, the data is there. It was the sample size. And what I say is that if it would work on your loved one, wouldn't you want it to be approved?
What do you say when I read comments on stories, which I know is a diseased behavior, and it's not a good one, but I do read them. I read a lot of comments saying it's only 10 months. What do you say to them?
I would say that Pete Frates never got to talk to his daughter because 5 months after Lucy was born, he had to go on a ventilator and he lost his voice. Well, if his progression had slowed down, he might have been able to tell her that he loved her. He might have seen her open another Christmas present on Christmas morning and seen his brother get engaged. His brother, who gave up 7 years of his life to take care of him, got engaged within that period of time. Don't tell me 10 months doesn't matter. It matters a lot.
Doctor, I read that the annual cost of the drug is $158,000, and I also read comments from the two men, formerly undergraduates at Brown, who run the company, talking about subsidies and that sort of thing. I don't understand all the details. Are you comfortable saying that anybody who needs this drug will be able to access it regardless of its pretty steep price?
Well, we operate in a complex healthcare system. So what I can tell you is that there's been a lot of thought and really dedication that's been put into this from multiple people, multiple stakeholders, and obviously the company has put a lot of thought into ways to support patients. So we're operating in a complex system. I sure hope that there will be access for everyone.
Are you confident? You were nodding. Are you confident, Nancy, that this will be available to people who need it, regardless of their ability to pay?
I am, because in 2017, we had another drug come to market, Radicava, and which had a steep price. I believe it was even more than
I think it was, yeah.
And I think that there's an unmet need here. Look, 2012, we were told no treatment, no cure when my son was diagnosed. Now, that's the difference, is that there's very limited treatments for ALS patients. So let's get it approved and let's get the insurance companies to pick that up.
What have you heard from families who have somebody they love who has ALS?
I heard from a very good friend of mine, unfortunately, who has been diagnosed in the last couple of years. And the first thing she wrote to me was, I already started the paperwork. Oh, boy. And she had all hearts and prayer signs next to it. That's all I needed.
How soon will this drug be available, doctor?
So the company has announced that the drug will be available within 4 to 6 weeks. So we're talking of mid-November on average. So again, I completely agree with what was said earlier. We're starting the paperwork and hopefully we'll be all set by that time.
What else is in the works? I mean, obviously we should celebrate what is, but I know this is not the end point. You mentioned there's not a cure. What are next steps that you and people like you have dedicated your life to this? What's next?
This is a great question. I do want people with ALS to know that there is a lot of hope because there is a lot of research. And in fact, a lot of that research was started thanks to the Ice Bucket Challenge that you mentioned earlier. And then from there, we continue to grow. So right now, we're testing more drugs than ever. And we have innovative trial designs that allow us to test these drugs faster. So I really think that we're going to see a number of news, hopefully many positive news over the next few months.
Do you allow yourself to think about whether or not a cure is on that list at some point, not just treatment, but a cure?
I think that's possible based on the science. Now, at this point, we are continuing to learn about the genetics of ALS, about the mechanisms of ALS, and we are continuing to build on top of what we already had. So there's going to be a time, I'm sure, not in the distant future, where we're going to be able to change ALS and make it a chronic, livable disease.
One more thing about progress. Can you describe for us where we are today as compared to where we were when the Ice Bucket Challenge happened?
Well, the Ice Bucket Challenge has been transformative. I think that people really need to understand that. And I think that since then, there's been so much progress. The curve is really impressive. And so what Nancy said is very right. You know, when in 2012 or 2014, there were very limited options, and now we have so many more.
You know, Nancy, you probably encountered this, but every time I ever heard anybody speak about your son, they talked as if they knew him. And most people got to know him from afar, but they didn't know. Tell us for a minute, what kind of person was this young man, son of yours?
So everything you've heard about him is true, and what I can say is that he was all that and more. He was a born servant leader. You know, that you hear all the talk about him being captain of the team. Those were his words when he was diagnosed. This is my new team. That's how he thought. It was always about team. It was always about community. It was always about serving others. And I did get a question in the last couple of days, did he ever feel sorry for himself? And I said, when you're a servant leader, it's not about you. It's about those that are going to follow and what you can do to help others. That was Pete in a nutshell. And, you know, the Healy Center, all the doctors there, those are my heroes right there. Those people are the ones that are really bringing this to be.
Do you ever feel sorry for yourself?
Well, as a mother, yes. Of course I feel sorry. I miss him every day. I wish I could have seen the future. But as a mother, I just choose to stay in my pride for this young man who took this challenge on, had the vision to see a trajectory change in this disease, and it happened. And today, to see this drug come to market and to help my friend who's now suffering from ALS, it's a building block, right? This is just another block in building up to what the doctor said is going to be eventually a cure.
You and your son and your family have helped change the world, Nancy Frates, so congratulations.
Jim Braude, nice to see you.
Doctor, it's a pleasure to meet you, and congratulations on your work.
Thank you.
Thank you both.